Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, we'll pass on to the next question. The following bone cells are capable of cell modulation except the options are the osteoprogenitor cells, the osteoblast cells, the osteocyte, and osteoclast. So when you take all these four types of cells, the osteoprogenitor cells can modify into osteoblasts and osteocytes. The osteoblasts can turn into osteocytes. Only the osteoclast is the only cells that cannot be changeable. So the answer is option B, the osteoclast. The next question is the Killian's dehiscence is an outpouching of the oropharynx, nasopharynx, laryngopharynx, and trachea. The answer is the laryngopharynx. So when you take the laryngopharynx, you have the inferior constrictor muscle has two components. The thyropharyngeus component, which is propulsive in action, and it is supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. The cricopharyngeus component of the inferior constrictor muscle is constriction sphincter part, the sphincteric in function, and it is supplied by external laryngeal nerve. So both the component has different functions. The thyropharyngeus is propulsive, the cricopharyngeus is constrictor of sphincteric function. So both has different nerve supply. The thyropharyngeus muscle is supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. The cricopharyngeus component is supplied by the external laryngeal nerve. So if there is an incoordination of these two components, there is a space in between them which causes the outpouching of the laryngopharynx. So this space is called as, or weak spot is called as the Killian's dehiscence. The next question is the tendon is a loose connective tissue, a specialized connective tissue, a dense regular connective tissue, and dense irregular connective tissue. So the tendon, it appears as a regular one, which is a connective tissue, and it is also dense. So the answer is a dense, regular connective tissue. The arrangement of the fibers will be regular and dense. So the tendon is a dense, regular connective tissue. The next question is, which of the following arteries does not supply the circle of Willis or does not form the circle of Willis? The options are the anterior cerebral artery, the middle cerebral artery, the posterior inferior cerebellar artery, the posterior communicating artery. The answer is the option C, the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. So this is a circle of the Willis, which is formed by the anterior cerebral artery, anterior communicating artery, the middle cerebral artery, the posterior communicating artery, and the basilar artery, which divides into the basilar artery. So these are the components of the circle of the Willis. So the posterior inferior cerebellar artery does not form the component of the circle of the Willis. The answer is C, the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. The next question is, damage to the ansa cervicalis during dissection affects which of the following muscle? The sternothyroid, the thyrohyoid, the cricothyroid, and the stylohyoid muscle. So the answer is option A, the sternothyroid muscle. The ansa cervicalis is formed by the two components, the descendant hypoglossite or the superior root of the ansa cervicalis, which carries the fibers from C1, and the inferior root of the ansa cervicalis or the descendant cervicalis, which carries the fibers from C2 and C3. So this two root forms a loop that is called as the ansa. The ansa cervicalis supplies the sternohyoid, the sternothyroid, and the inferior belly of the omohyoid. So the answer will be the sternothyroid. The thyrohyoid is supplied by the C1 nerve, which passes along with the hypoglossal nerve. So this supplies the thyrohyoid and the geniohyoid. The cricothyroid is supplied by the external laryngeal nerve. The stylohyoid muscle is supplied by the facial nerve. So the answer is the sternothyroid muscle. The next question is, yes.
Ma'am, there is a doubt, ma'am, actually. Previously, in one of the question, you have told that whenever there is a hypoglossal nerve injury, it causes deviation of the tongue to the opposite side. Same side. Yeah. When does hypoglossal nerve injury cause deviation of tongue to the opposite side? Will it cause?
In the upper motor neuron, sometimes it will cause, in the lower motor neuron, it will deviate to the side of the injury. Whereas in the upper motor nerve, it causes a deviation to the opposite side.
Okay, ma'am. And one more question, ma'am. What is multipinnate muscle, ma'am?
Multipinnate muscle. So multipinnate muscle is when you see the fiber arrangement of the muscle, it will be from various directions, which is attached to a fibrous band. Okay. So multipinnate. So it multiple pinnate means a branching pattern, right? So it arises from different directions. So that is multipinnate.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Can we proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. The melanocytes. The melanocytes are the type of cells. So what are the type of cells? The melanocytes comes under the cardiocytes, the Merkel cells, the dendritic cells, and keratocytes. It comes under the cell type of dendritic cells. So when you see the structure of the melanocyte, it has dendrites. So hence it is called as the dendritic cells. So the melanocyte comes under the dendritic cells. The next question is, the patient has a mandibular nerve neuralgia with herpes zoster infection within the mandibular division of the left trigeminal nerve. The patient has the difficulty on protrusion, and on protrusion, the mandible deviates to the left side. So which muscle is most probably affected? So the options are the lateral pterygoid on the left side, the lateral pterygoid on the right side, the medial pterygoid on the left and the lateral pterygoid on the left, the medial pterygoid on the right and the lateral pterygoid on the left. So when you take the action of the lateral pterygoid, it pushes the chin to the opposite side. So here the left side trigeminal nerve is affected. So the answer will be the lateral pterygoid on the left side is affected. Okay. So the mandible is deviated to the affected side. So the right side muscle pushes the normal right side lateral pterygoid muscle pushes the chin to the opposite side. So the answer is the lateral pterygoid on the left side is affected. The next question is, the lumbar vertebra is indicated by the number 5, 4, 3, 2. So you know the lumbar vertebra is 5 in number. So the lumbar vertebra is indicated by 5. So the answer is 5. The next question, after an accident, a patient is unable to close her lips completely due to certain facial injuries. Which muscle paralyzed most commonly? So around the mouth, you have the muscle that is called as the orbicularis oris muscle. So orbicularis oris muscle is the sphincteric muscle which causes closure of the lips. So the answer is option A, the orbicularis oris muscle. The next question, retraction of the mandible is achieved by the lateral pterygoid, temporalis, medial pterygoid, masseter muscle. So when the mandible is protruded, it is pulled back by the temporalis muscle. The posterior fibers of the temporalis muscle helps in the retraction of the mandible. So the answer is the temporalis. B, option E, B, the temporalis muscle. The next question, the sex determining region of the chromosome is the short arm of X, the short arm of Y, the long arm of X, and long arm of Y. The answer is the short arm of Y, SRY. The sex determining region is located in the short arm of Y chromosome, and it is also called as the testis developmental factor. So it is important in determining the sex of the fetus. So the sex determining region is located in the short arm of Y. The next question is, the morula contains how many cells? 6, 12, 16, 100. The 16th stage of the embryo, it is called as the morula. So the answer is 16. The next question, the fluid-filled sacs usually found near movable joints are called the synovial calyces, the bursae, the aponeurosis. The answer is the bursae. So near the joint, there will be spaces which are full, sac-like spaces which are filled with synovial fluid, which helps in the prevention of the friction between the two bones which forms the joint. So the answer is bursae. The next question, the teratogenic effect common at 3 to 5 months intrauterine life, first 2 months of intrauterine life, the last month, or 6 to 8 months of intrauterine life. So most of the development takes place in the first month of the intrauterine life, first 2 to 3 months. That is the first trimester. So that is usually, particularly between the 15th to 18th day, where the third week gastrulation takes place. Most of the derivatives develop, all the ectodermal, mesodermal, endodermal derivatives develop during this period. So the teratogenic effect is most common at the first 2 months of the intrauterine life. So the answer is B, the first 2 months of the intrauterine life. The next question is, the primary visual area is indicated by the number 10, 12, 17, and 15. So the answer is number 15. So here, this is the occipital lobe, which is concerned with the visual sense. So it is concerned with the vision. So you have the primary visual area, which is designated by the number 17 of Brodmann, and 18 and 19 are visual association area or secondary visual area. So the primary visual area is designated by the number 17 of Brodmann. The next question, which of the following bone is most commonly fractured bone of the face? So most common bone is the nasal bone. Next is the mandible. And next comes the maxilla. So the first common bone which is fractured in the face is the nasal bone. So the answer is option A, the nasal bone. The next question, the fracture of the middle cranial fossa produces a bleeding and discharge of the CSF through the ear. Bleeding through the nose or mouth may occur due to the involvement of the sphenoid bone. The 7th and the 8th cranial nerve may be damaged if the fracture also passes through the internal acoustic meatus, and all of the above. The fracture of the middle cranial fossa produces all these three. So answer will be D, all of the above. So if the semicircular canal is also damaged during this fracture, there will be vertigo also. The next question, the superior parathyroid is derived from. So yes, the superior parathyroid is derived from the mesoderm of the third pouch, the endoderm of the third arch, the mesoderm of the fourth arch, or endoderm of the fourth pouch. So always remember, so these will be derived from the endoderm of the pouch. The superior parathyroid develops from the endoderm of the fourth pouch, whereas the inferior parathyroid develops from the endoderm of the third pouch. So the parathyroid gland develops from endoderm of the pouch. The superior parathyroid develops from the endoderm of the fourth pouch. The next question, which of the following facial muscle is not examined to test the facial nerve? So the options are frontalis muscle, buccinator muscle, mentalis muscle, and orbicularis oculi muscle. The answer is a mentalis. So we ask the patient to look up without moving the head to test the frontalis muscle. So we have to see for the horizontal wrinkles on the forehead. So then for the buccinator, you have to ask the patient to blow or blow the air forcibly or puff the mouth. For orbicularis oculi, you have to ask the patient to close the eyes, normal and tight, both. So these are the tests for the muscles, frontalis, buccinator, and orbicularis. We usually don't examine the mentalis muscle. The next question, the intrinsic and the extrinsic muscles of the tongue is derived from. Options are occipital myotomes, the third and the fourth branchial arch, the first branchial arch, and the hypobranchial eminence. The muscles of the tongue are derived from the occipital myotomes. So along with the muscles of the tongue, the muscles, extraocular muscles of the eyeball also develops from the myotomes. The occipital myotomes gives rise to the intrinsic and the extrinsic muscles of the tongue. The next question, tracheostomy is commonly done in which region? Retrothyroid, suprathyroid, infrathyroid, and suprasternal. The answer is retrothyroid. So you have to retract the isthmus of the thyroid and proceed with the tracheostomy. If we perform suprathyroid, it may cause stricture, or if we perform below the thyroid, infrathyroid or suprasternal, there will be major vessels which may be injured. So the retrothyroid region is the common region where the tracheostomy is done. So the answer is option A, the retrothyroid. The next question is, find the wrong match of suprahyoid muscle disposed in the layer. In the first layer, you have digastric and stylohyoid. Second layer, you have the mylohyoid. Third layer, you have the genioglossus and hyoglossus. And the fourth layer is the genioglossus. So the answer is option C, the third layer. It is made up of geniohyoid and hyoglossus. So the answer is option C, the third layer, genioglossus is given. Instead of genioglossus, there should be geniohyoid. The next question is the type of the collagen in the hyaline cartilage. The hyaline cartilage, we studied that the hyaline cartilage represents a homogeneous matrix. When you have a homogeneous matrix, the collagen fibers must be thin. So it is composed of type 2 collagen fibers. So the matrix of the hyaline cartilage is made up of type 2 collagen fibers. The next question, which gland has more chances of getting calculi or small stones? The options are sublingual, submandibular, parotid, sublingual, and submandibular. The answer is submandibular gland. The submandibular gland secretion is more viscous, so there are chances of forming numerous small calculi or stones in the submandibular gland. So the answer is B, the submandibular gland. The next question is, the palatine tonsils are lined by stratified squamous epithelium, keratinized epithelium, pseudostratified epithelium, cuboidal epithelium. The answer is A, the stratified squamous epithelium. In particular, it is lined by stratified squamous and non-keratinized epithelium. Since the palatine tonsil is related to the oral cavity, the surface of the tonsil is lined by stratified squamous and non-keratinized epithelium, and it presents crypts. The palatine crypt will be present in the tonsil and the lymphatic follicles. So these are the identifying points for the palatine tonsil. So it is lined by the epithelium, which is stratified squamous, non-keratinized epithelium. The next question is, the atlanto-occipital joint is an ellipsoid joint, hinge joint, pivot joint, and none of the above. The atlanto-occipital joint is an example for ellipsoid joint, whereas the atlanto-axial joint is an example for pivot joint. So the answer is option A, the ellipsoid joint. The next question, the cranial flat bones show what kind of ossification? Endochondral ossification, intramembranous and endochondral ossification, intramembranous ossification, and interstitial ossification. Always the flat bones, they form by the intramembranous ossification. So the answer is option C, the intramembranous ossification. The next question, which of the following statement is true? The optic nerve has no neurolemmal sheath. The optic nerve has no power of regeneration. It is a tract and not a nerve. Option B, all of the above. So these are the statements for the optic nerve. All the three are correct. Optic nerve does not have a neurolemmal sheath. Because it does not have a neurolemmal sheath, it does not have a power of regeneration, and it is more or less a tract more than a nerve. So these all three statements are true regarding the optic nerve. The next question is, in CNS, the myelin sheath formed by. So when you take the myelin sheath in the neurons of the central nervous system, it is formed by the oligodendrocytes. So the answer is option A, the oligodendrocytes. The Schwann cells, they form the myelination of the neurons in the peripheral nervous system. So the oligodendrocytes forms the myelination in the central nervous system. The Schwann cells form the myelination in the peripheral nervous system. So the answer is option A, the oligodendrocytes. Next question, the tympanic membrane develops from ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, and option D, all of the above. The tympanic membrane is a trilaminar layer, so it develops from all the three layers, ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. So the answer is option B, all of the above. The next question, the spleen filters tissue fluid only, lymph fluid only, blood only, and all of the above. The spleen is the filter for the blood. So option C, the blood only. The spleen filters only the blood. The next question, the middle meningeal artery enters the skull through the foramen ovale, the foramen spinosum, the foramen lacerum, and the foramen rotundum. The middle meningeal artery enters the cranial cavity through the foramen spinosum. The other structure which passes through the foramen spinosum are the nervus spinosus or the meningeal branch of the mandibular nerve. The middle meningeal artery and the nervus spinosus passes through the foramen spinosum. The next question, all the following are fibrous joint except the temporomandibular joint, the sutural joint, the gomphosis and syndesmosis. So these three, the suture, gomphosis and the syndesmosis are fibrous joints. Whereas the temporomandibular joint is the synovial joint. So the answer is option A, the temporomandibular joint. The next question is, the Passavant's ridge is made up of the palatopharyngeus muscle, the tensor palatine muscle, the stylopharyngeus muscle, and salpingopharyngeus muscle. The Passavant's ridge is produced by the palatopharyngeus muscle. So this palatopharyngeus muscle, it forms a horizontal ridge around the mucous membrane of the pharynx in a circular direction, which forms like a sphincter. So that forms the Passavant's ridge. So when it contracts, it narrows down the space and prevents the food bolus to enter into the nasopharynx. So the Passavant's ridge is made up of palatopharyngeus muscle. The next question, during which phase of mitosis the division of the chromosome appears? The telophase, the metaphase, the prophase, and anaphase. So the name Ana is divide. So anatomy, so divide and study. So anatomy. So anaphase is the phase in which there is a division of the chromosome. So the answer is option B, the anaphase. The next question, the supromedial wall of the suboccipital triangle is formed by the anterior arch of the atlas, the posterior arch of the atlas, the superior oblique muscle, and rectus capitis muscle. The answer is option B, the rectus capitis muscle. So when you see the boundaries of the suboccipital triangle, supromedially it is bounded by the rectus capitis posterior major, sublimited by the rectus capitis posterior minor, and supralaterally by the obliquus capitis superior and inferiorly by the obliquus capitis inferior. So these are the boundaries of the suboccipital triangle. So the answer is option B, the rectus capitis muscle, both the rectus capitis posterior major and minor muscle. The next question, which of the following does not involve in the auditory pathway? The options are lateral lemniscus, medial geniculate body, trapezoid body, and medial lemniscus. The answer is the medial lemniscus. Lateral lemniscus is a part of the auditory pathway. All these lateral lemniscus, medial geniculate body, trapezoid body, all these three forms the part of the auditory pathway, whereas the medial lemniscus is the sensory pathway. The next question, identify the bone of the calvarium which is marked as 3. So this area. So the option is parietal, frontal, occipital, and temporal. So this region is the occipital. So this part is the occipital. Answer is the option C, occipital. The next question, cephalic vein drains into the brachial, radial, popliteal, and axillary. So the cephalic vein is the vein, superficial vein which drains the upper limb, and this drains into the axillary vein. So the answer is option D, the axillary vein. The next question, which of the following passes through the foramen indicated in the picture? So in the picture, so this is the foramen indicated. So this foramen is the jugular foramen. So what are the options given? Option A is mandibular, maxillary, hypoglossal, and glossopharyngeal nerve. So the mandibular nerve passes through the foramen ovale. The hypoglossal nerve, it passes through the anterior condylar canal or hypoglossal canal. The glossopharyngeal nerve is the only nerve which passes through the jugular foramen. So jugular foramen transmits the glossopharyngeal nerve, option D. So what are the structures that passes through the jugular foramen? Jugular foramen is divided into 3 compartments: anterior compartment, middle compartment, and posterior compartment. Anterior compartment of the jugular foramen transmits the inferior petrosal sinus. The middle compartment transmits the 9th, 10th, 11th cranial nerve. Along with that, you will have the meningeal branch of the ascending pharyngeal artery, and sometimes you will get the emissary vein. The posterior compartment, the sigmoid sinus, continues as the internal jugular vein. So these are the structures that passes through the jugular foramen. The next question, identify the structure B. So this is B. So identify the structure B in the posterior view of the skull. Options are left lambdoid suture, right lambdoid suture, and external occipital protuberance, and none of the above. So this region is the external occipital protuberance. Answer is option C. The next question, the cubital tunnel syndrome occurs due to the compression of which structure? Cubital. Cubital means elbow part. So answer is a median nerve, radial nerve, ulnar nerve, and brachial artery. So the answer is the ulnar nerve, option C. Cubital tunnel syndrome. So the ulnar nerve, when passes deep in the elbow region, it is compressed. So that causes a cubital tunnel syndrome. So the option is ulnar nerve is the answer. The next question, which gland is palpated in the given diagram? So you have the bimanual examination, and you can see this is a gland. So the options are parotid gland, submandibular gland, sublingual gland, and parathyroid gland. So the answer is the submandibular gland. So it is palpated by bimanual examination. You have to put the finger inside the mouth and another hand outside under the mandibular region. So this is the examination for the submandibular gland. So answer is option B, the submandibular gland. The next question is, adenoids are situated in the hypopharynx, oropharynx, trachea, and nasopharynx. So the adenoid is situated in the nasopharynx. So you know the Waldeus ring. So it is formed above by the adenoid, and on lateral, above and laterally by the tubal tonsil, and below by the palatine tonsil and lingual tonsil. So these forms the Waldeus ring. So adenoid is located in the nasopharynx. Next question, which of the following is false about this structure? So these are identified by the presence of foramina transversoria. The first one is called as axis. The third to sixth are typical. The first, second, and seventh are atypical. The answer is the first one of the cervical vertebra is called as atlas. So the answer is the B. The first one is called as axis. The next question, the palatine aponeurosis is formed by which muscle? The tensor vale palatine muscle, the levator vale palatine muscle, the palatoglossus muscle, and musculus uvulae. The answer is tensor vale palatine muscle. So this is the tensor vale palatine muscle. It winds around the pterygoid hamulus and spreads out as the palatine aponeurosis. On the superior surface, it gives attachment to the levator vale palatine and the palatopharyngeus muscle, and undersurface gives attachment to the palatoglossus muscle. So the palatine aponeurosis is formed by the tensor vale palatine muscle. Next question, identify the fontanelle which closes at the 18th month. So 18th month is closed by the anterior fontanel. So option B is the anterior fontanel. So anterior fontanel closed by 18th month. So answer is option B. The next is the retina consists of following number of layers 8, 10, 9 and 11. Retina has 10 layers. So answer is option B, 10. So what are the layers you have? You have the outer pigmented layer. Next you have the layers of rods and cones. Next you have the outer limiting membrane. Next you have the outer nuclear layer. Next you have the outer plexiform layer. And next you have the inner nuclear layer. And next you have the inner plexiform layer. And next the 8th layer is the ganglion cell layer. 9th is the nerve fiber layer. And the 10th one is the inner limiting membrane. So these are the 10 layers of the retina. So retina has 10 layers. The next question is tonsil. Tonsil is mainly supplied by the lingual artery, a branch of maxillary artery, a branch of internal carotid artery, a branch of facial artery. The answer is option B, the branch of facial artery. So when you see the arterial supply of the tonsil, the main source is by the tonsillar branch of the facial artery. Additional sources are the ascending palatine artery, which is a branch from the facial artery. Then the dorsal lingual branches from the lingual artery. Then the ascending pharyngeal branch of the external carotid artery and the greater palatine branch of maxillary artery. So these are the additional sources that supply to the tonsils. So the main supply is the tonsillar branch of the facial artery. The next question is the suture shown in the image normally disappears about 2 months, 4 months, 5 years and 7 years. The answer is option B, the 7 years. Sometimes it may persist. So that is an abnormal persistence of the metopic suture. So the answer is option B, the 7 years. The next question is number 9 is pointing to. So this is 9 and it points to. So options are perimysium, tendon, periosteum and endomysium. So this is the muscle fiber. So this is a muscle and each muscle fiber is surrounded by the endomysium. So the group of muscle fiber forms a fascicle. The fascicle is surrounded by the perimysium. And the entire muscle is made up of number of fascicles. The entire muscle is surrounded by epimysium. So each muscle fiber is surrounded by endomysium. Each fascicle is surrounded by perimysium. And each muscle, entire muscle is surrounded by epimysium. Endo, peri, and epi. The next question, the joint labeled A in a figure is a type of hinge joint, condylar joint, pivot joint, and ball and socket joint. So A is the atlantoaxial joint. So it is an example for pivot joint. So answer is C, the pivot joint. Find out the wrong statement. The cornea can be grafted from one person to another. It's right. Injury to the cornea may cause opacity. It's right. Because it is a transparent one. When there is an injury to the cornea, it may cause opacity. The eye is very sensitive organ and even a dust particle gives rise to pain. Right. The bulbar conjunctiva is avascular. That is the wrong statement. The bulbar conjunctiva is the vascular structure. So the answer is option D. The bulbar conjunctiva is avascular. The next one, identify the structure labeled as A. So this is the A one. So the options are frontal air sinus, maxillary air sinus, superior sagittal sinus, and inferior sagittal sinus. So the option A, the pointer A is the frontal air sinus. So this is the frontal bone. This is the air cavity which is present in the frontal bone. So frontal air sinus. Answer is option A, the frontal air sinus. So when you see the other structure, the B is the superior sagittal sinus. C is the anterior cerebral artery. D is the inferior sagittal sinus. And E is the falx cerebri. And F is the great cerebral vein of Galen. And G is the straight sinus. Next, identify the structure labeled as a B. So this is B. So this is the pons. So the options are midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, cerebellum. So the answer is pons. So A is the midbrain, B is the pons, C is the medulla oblongata, D is the cerebellum, and E is the tubal elevation, and F is the opening, and G is the soft palate, and H is the pharyngeal recess. The next question, identify the label structure. So here you can see the inner surface of the mandible. Here is the angle of the mandible. So the muscle attached to the inner surface of the angle of the mandible will be the medial pterygoid. So the answer is option A, the medial pterygoid muscle. So when you take the origin of the medial pterygoid muscle, it has two heads, a superficial head and a deep head. The superficial head takes origin from the tuberosity of the maxilla and the adjoining bone. The deep head, the medial pterygoid. So it arises from the medial surface of the lateral pterygoid plate and the adjoining process of the palatine bone. Insertion, it is inserted to the medial surface of the angle and the adjoining ramus of the mandible. When you see the nerve supply of the medial pterygoid, it is supplied by the nerve to the medial pterygoid arises from the main trunk of the mandibular nerve. Action of the medial pterygoid, it elevates the mandible, protrudes the mandible, and the right medial and the lateral pterygoid moves the chin to the left side. So that's all the questions. So anything, any doubt?
Yeah, guys, if you have any doubts, you can ask ma'am. You can unmute yourself and you can ask ma'am. Anyone?